It's New Year's Eve, December 31st, 2021, and this is the Washington Times front page. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. President Biden and Russian President Vladimir Putin spoke for nearly an hour by phone, but neither backed down from an escalating standoff over Ukraine. Ben Wolfgang and Joseph Clark report the president threatened more U.S. economic sanctions and beefed up NATO forces in neighboring countries during the call, which was called serious and substantive by a senior White House official. Putin warned that more sanctions would be a grave error. Russia is massing troops along its border with Ukraine and demanding major concessions from the West to avoid a war. The phone call comes as U.S. and Russian officials prepare for a series of high-stakes in-person negotiations next month on Ukraine, NATO, European security, and other matters. For Biden, the growing crisis represents a major foreign policy challenge. He stressed the U.S.'s commitment to diplomacy and de-escalation amid the standoff, according to officials, but said deterrence measures remain on the table. The president said the U.S. approach going forward will largely depend on Russia's actions over the near term. More than 1,000 military families in Hawaii have been stuck in hotels through the holidays after jet fuel from underground storage tanks leaked into a well that supplied their on-base homes with water. The Navy took action at Joint Base Pearl Harbor-Hickam only after dozens living and housing on the base had complained their water was making them sick and smelled like fuel. The Navy is working to flush pipes around the base's housing area as part of an effort to restore clean drinking water. The water woes are only the latest in a swirl of housing issues bedeviling the Pentagon, Mike Glenn reports. They include mold found in barracks on several bases across the country and allegations of corruption among contractors that have played a major role in providing military dwellings since a privatization drive in the 1990s. Houston attorney and Vietnam veteran Jim Moriarty represents a number of military families in litigation against various companies contracted by the Pentagon to provide military housing. He told Mike the companies are able to get away with defrauding the families by using money to influence Congress and by hiring former high-ranking military officers to influence the Pentagon. Virginia's incoming Republican Attorney General, Jason Miyares, expects the courts to toss the state's lawsuit trying to add an equal rights amendment to the Constitution. Stephen Dinan reports Miyares' predecessor, Mark Herring, had led the legal battle for states trying to get a court to rule the ERA is now fully ratified after Virginia's legislature became the 38th state to approve the amendment in 2020. But a Miyares spokesperson said that while they're reviewing all the cases handled under Herring, they expect the ERA litigation will be dismissed by the courts. The ERA, which would become the 28th Amendment to the Constitution, would guarantee that equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. A reminder that you can find all these stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page. If you don't have access to the Times yet, you can visit WashingtonTimes.com/George and get 25% off your annual subscription. Despite a tense political climate and several high-profile defeats, President Biden's withdrawal rate of nominees that need Senate confirmation is on par with his three immediate predecessors. Jeff Murdoch crunched the numbers. So far, Biden has withdrawn 9 nominees in his first year. At this point in his tenure, former President Trump had 13 withdrawals, while former Presidents Obama and Bush had 11 and 7 withdrawals, respectively. Biden has yanked 4 nominees after Republicans and some moderate Democrats complained their views were too extreme. Another was pulled amid a Defense Department probe into the office that he led. 1 nominee dropped out citing personal reasons, and 3 more were withdrawn without explanation. And finally, James Varney talked with Seattle-based journalist Omari Salisbury. The founder of Converge Media, a Pacific Northwest news and entertainment production company, says he wasn't chasing glory via his cell phone coverage of protests and riots in Seattle in the summer of 2020. Salisbury says he just wanted to let his neighbors and the world know what was happening in his hometown during the weeks-long Capitol Hill Occupied protest. Salisbury's smartphone is now on display at the Museum of History and Industry, a private institution focused on Seattle's mercantile roots, which also bestowed on him one of its History Maker 2020 awards. Find all of today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or on the Washington Times app, and find us on all of your favorite podcast platforms just by searching Washington Times in your favorite podcast app. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Wash Times for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For all of us at the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo, wishing you a happy and healthy New Year.